Hi. So the previous video that I did, we stored our own objects into a list, and then we worked on pickling those in the next one. So this one, we're going to store objects in a dictionary. So each element of a dictionary has a key and a value. If you want to retrieve a specific value from the dictionary, you do so by specifying its key. So in previous examples that I've done, saw that stored values such as strings, integers, floating point numbers, lists, and tuples in dictionaries. Dictionaries are also useful for storing objects that you create from your own classes. So let's look at an example. Suppose you want to create a program that keeps contact information such as names, phone numbers, and email addresses. You could start by writing a class such as the contact class that we're going to look at here in a minute. An instance of the contact class keeps the following data. As a person's name is stored in the name attribute, person's phone number is stored in the phone attribute, and the email address is stored in the email address, or email attribute. I'm again going to leave the underlines off of those. The methods that we're going to have is our init, our initializer or constructor method that accepts arguments for the person's name, phone number, and email address. Then we have our mutators to set the name, phone, email, and we have our accessors to get the name, phone, and email. And then we're going to also put in an str so that we can print this information out. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So I've already opened up Python and started a file for this. So this one we're going to call contact, and that's going to be the name of our class. We'll do our init, always have self, have our name, phone, and email. Self.name equals name, self.phone equals phone, and self.email equals email. Then we'll do our mutators. So our set phone, and our set email. And you might be thinking, well, why do we put all these in here when we got them in our init? Well, there may be a time when, say, you have a person who changes their phone number, or somebody that gets married and changes their name. You need to have those available to be able to modify those on there. So, okay, then we're going to do our accessors. And then we want to do our str. And I haven't done one of these yet for anybody, so we're going to do this now here. And what the str is going to allow us to do is to return a string that we can then, in a program, use a print statement to print out an object. Okay? So it's underline, underline, str, underline, underline, and then self. Now, the way that a lot of books that I've read do this is they do a return statement and they do it all in one thing. I like to put it into a variable and add to the variable and break it down and then return that variable. So I use MSG all the time for this. So MSG is going to be equal to, we start off with, okay, so MSG is going to be equal to an F, name colon, and then in curly braces, our self.name, and then a backslash n to put a carriage return on that. Then I'm going to do MSG plus equals, and then we're going to do the same thing again. Only this time it's going to be for the phone. And then the email. And then we just return MSG. This breaks it down a little bit here, so it's not all spread out all into one big long statement. And so I like it a little bit better this way. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to say this is contact.py. Okay, so let's pull this back over here and I'll go through with you what we're going to do next. So next you could write a program that keeps contact objects in a dictionary. Each time the program creates a contact object holding a specific person's data, that object would be stored as a value in the dictionary, using the person's name as the key. Then, anytime you need to retrieve a specific person's data, you would use that person's name as a key to retrieve the contact object from the dictionary. Now, another way of doing this is most employees, or if you're doing it as that, this is just friends. They wouldn't have this, but if it was employees, they might have an ID number, and you could use the ID number as the key, and then the object with all the other data, the name, office number, phone number, all that stuff, could then be in the object. So just different ways of being able to do the same type of thing on here. But we're going to use the name as the key. The name will also be part of the object, so it's going to be in two places. Okay, so this is going to be called Contact Manager. That's the name of the file that I'm going to do here. As soon as I get my mouse, there we go. New file. And I'm going to go ahead and save it here to start with. So I have the name already in here. Contactmanager.py. And this is the main function for this. So here we're going to need to import. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it again like I've done before. From contact, import contact. And I need to import my pickle. And then we're going to have some constants to use words instead of numbers for our menu choices. So lookup is going to be equal to 1. Add is equal to 2. Change is going to be equal to 3. Delete equal to 4. And quit equal to 5. Now, if you looked at some of my other videos, this was done the same way in the dictionary part of what I was doing, and so this is going to be kind of a repeat of that, but we're also using classes in here and the pickle. It's a little bit different on there. So file name is going to be equal to contacts.dat. Okay, so we'll get started with our main. So in our main, we're going to have our my contacts is going to be equal to load contacts. Okay. Again, they do it a little bit different in the example that I got, where they set choice equal to 0, and then while choice does not equal quit, I'm going to do it a little bit different here. I'm going to move the validation here rather than in the load contacts function. So here I'm going to do is choice is going to be equal to get menu choice, and then while choice does not equal quit. Okay. So then in here, we just start with our if statements. If choice equals lookup, then we call lookup passing in contacts. Else if choice equals, oops, there we go, add, then we call add, passing in contacts. Else if choice equals change, then change, passing in contacts. Else if choice equals delete, passing in contacts. And then, like I said before, I'm going to put this out here instead of in the other one. Else print just kind of abbreviate it a little bit. You need to choose 1 through 5. Okay. And then once we get all that done, we need to call choice equals my menu contacts again. I'm going to copy that and I'll paste it down in here. And then when we get done with that, we need to save contacts. Passing in okay, yeah, and all these, I'm sorry, I messed these all up here. These should all be my contacts. Got that mixed up with contacts up here as the file name. That's what messed me up on that. And let me put the C's here. Okay, so that's the function for that. That's our main, I should say. So then what we're going to need to do on here, we're going to need to create one for each of these. So additionally, the program automatically pickles the dictionary and saves it to a file when the user quits the program. When the program starts, it automatically retrieves the unpickled and unpickles the dictionary from the file. So we already went through the pickling process. So if the file does not exist, the program starts with an empty dictionary. So we're going to have functions for the look up a contact in the dictionary, add a new contact, change an existing contact, delete a contact, and quit the program. So the program is divided into 8 functions. Main, which we've already done. We're going to have load contacts, get menu choice, look up, add, change, delete, and save contacts. So what we're going to do is we're going to add each of these individually. Okay. So right now all we have is main. So we could run this now. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Oh, we already did save it. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. Oh, forgot to put in the, sorry, that needs to go down here. I do that every once in a while, if you haven't noticed. Okay, let's try this again. And what this allows us to do is to test what we've already done and hopefully limit some of the errors, so we don't have as many errors coming up at one time and trying to figure out where they all are. Okay, so the low contacts is not put in there yet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a hashtag on that. That way, it blocks that out, and what we're going to do is just check the menu to make sure it just goes through there, and then we can put in a 5 to quit before we actually go in there. Whoops. Okay, a lot of these things in here. Okay, so it's not going to do, I have to do a lot more changes to this. What I would do if I was actually doing this to show you how to um, check things out is I would create dummy functions for these, just pass back a value for choice as being, or set choice equal to 5, and then make sure that that just runs, then this wouldn't work either down here. So anyway, so we're going to continue on from here then. Um, so let's go on down. I'll go down here in my notes here. So we'll go ahead and do the next function, which is the load contacts. And that would be right here. We don't have anything to pass into there. So we're going to do a try to start off with open our file name. And this is a read binary. So we're going to do contact DCT for dictionary equals pickle dot load input file. Okay, so hopefully all that works, but if it doesn't, so this is we're going to do our accept file not found error, and I'll do that. Then we're going to set contact DCT equal to curly brace and curly brace. So if it doesn't find the file, that means that we didn't start with a file, and it's going to just create an empty dictionary for us. And then we return contact DCT. Okay. So the very first time we would run this, we would not have a file. So when it starts up, it would create an empty dictionary. If we added some records to it and then ran it again, it would already be there, and it would open it up and unpickle it for us into our contact dictionary. So the next one is to get the menu choices. Don't have anything to pass into here. I'm going to start off with a print, put in print line, print the word menu, print out a bunch of underlines, kind of separate things out a little bit, and then print out each of our menu choices. Now, one thing I'm going to go ahead and say this on here is I just didn't want to mess with changing this, but I would normally put add as the number 1 instead of the lookup, because that would be my, especially the first times you run it, you would be doing an add rather than looking up. But it's just user preference. And that would be something that you would do when you're talking to your client. You know, what order would you like these? Come on, would you like these to be in? Okay, and then so after we get our menu all set up, then oh, forgot my quote mark here. There we go. And then I think the next one is going to be a return, if I remember right. Yes, because this is where they would check it to make sure that the right value was entered and stuff. Well, we did it over in main. Return choice. Okay, so then what we need to do is go through the 4 options that they have there. So the first one we're going to do is our lookup. Passing in or receiving my contacts. So that's going to enter a name. And then do a print. Okay, so we print my contacts.get and then passing in name and then a sentence here that if the name does not exist, it would print out that name is not found. Okay. So that's all that's in that one. So then we go down and we do our add. Adding my contacts. And again, on this one here, I'm going to change it a little bit from what they have in the example that I had, is that they input all the information and then they check to see if it's already existing or not. Well, let me back up here a little bit. See if we can do this a little bit different, because what they do is they enter all the data, store it into an object, and then check to see if it can go in there or not. So I'm going to change that because I don't like the way that does it. It makes it more that the user has to do. So we're going to do name equals input name, and then if name not in my contacts, then we do the other stuff. We do phone equals input phone, email equals input email, and then entry equals contact, passing in name. Type it would help. Phone and email. Then we can do my contacts name equals entry, and then we can print out a message. The entry has been added. Else, what we want to do here is print out an error message telling them that the name already exists, or that the entry already exists. Okay? So to me, this is a little bit cleaner, because the person only has to enter the name, and then if the name is not there, I mean, it's already in there, then they don't have to enter the phone and the email, and the system doesn't have to create an object of it because it's not needed at that point. Okay, so just some things that I noticed when I do these, and other people have created these before me, and I didn't like them. So okay, so next one we have to do is our change. So in this one, you gotta get have them enter the name. And then if name in my contacts, and we get the phone. Okay, missed the quote mark there. And then get the email address. And then create the object. Okay, and then my contacts name equals entry. So we can make the change on there, and then print information updated. Else print the name is not found. Okay. Now something else that could be done in here, and this would be adding more code and everything, but to ask them, do you want to change the phone? Do you want to change the email? And then that way, what one or the other would have to be changed, and then that way they don't have to enter both of them. But then you're asking them more stuff, and you have more code in there. So it just depends on how you want to set it up. And again, talking to your client about it. Okay, so now we need to do the delete. So in this one, you need to get the name. And then if the name is in my contacts, DEL, my contacts name. Then print entry deleted. Else print That entry is not found. Okay, and then we need to save when we get all this stuff done and we quit. We need to save our contacts. So with open file name, and we're doing this for a write binary as output file, pickle.dump, my contacts output file. Okay, and that's all that's the rest of it. That's the end of it. We already have that put in there. So let's see how much we can, how far we can go without hitting an error. Okay, so we're going to add one. So let's do a 1. Enter name, John, name not found, because that was a lookup. Okay, good. Let's add 1. That's 2. So that's why I said I always think of add as being the first one. Name, John, phone, 444-5555. Email address, john at email.com. Okay, let's add one more. Mary, phone, 555-4444. And then Mary Mary at email.com. And let's look up John. And there we have John, name, the phone number, and the email. Let's do a change. Change is 3. Mary, phone number 333-2222. Email Mary at email.com. And we'll look up Mary now. And there's the changes on there. Do a delete. Let's do an add. Larry not found. Okay, that's good. So we went to change, did that. Let's do another add. Okay, I don't know why that's not letting me delete that out of there. Let's do a lookup. Okay, so I don't know what the how the D got in there on that one, but anyway, that's the information. So we haven't done a delete yet, so let's do a delete. So we can do a lookup for Larry's not there. Let's do a change on Larry, and it's not found. So all those are working. Then we can do a 5 to exit out, and we're done. And we should have a message there saying, thank you for using my program, or program done, or whatever. So anyway, so hopefully this gives you some information on how to use dictionaries with a class, and using objects with pickles, and using a menu program on all this. So, bye.